The award-winning strategy game, Sid Meier's Civilization VII, is out on the MetaQuest. Let's take our seats at the command table and immerse ourselves in this tabletop turn-based empire builder. Is this version of the game truly the best way to build a civilization, or does VR add nothing to the experience and make you wish you were back on the flat screen? First up, for those who somehow have never picked up a Civ game in the sale before, what is a civilization game? You take the role of a historic figure leading a nation into expansion and greatness. As time goes on, turn after turn on this hex grid board game-like map, your civilization grows and advances in technology chosen by the player. As your empire advances, so do the units and buildings you can build. You'll advance through 3 ages this time round, starting at the Antiquity Age, which commences at the dawn of history. Here you'll find units from around the ancient Egypt, Greece and Rome periods, such as theatres, aqueducts, chariots and bowmen. Next you'll advance to the Exploration Age, where you'll cross oceans and wooden ships full of gunpowder. Then lastly you'll hit the Modern Age, which will take you through the great wars of our generation and into the current age. The aim of the game is to win a military victory by wiping out the other civilizations, a technological victory by being the first to launch a rocket into space, or a cultural victory by having the best writers, poets and painters the world has ever seen. At the start of the game you'll choose a historic leader who will come with a benefit to help your progress. The Roman leader Augustus grants 50% gold to buildings in towns, fresh areas set up that haven't quite been pushed to the level of a full-blown city. This is a clear advantage in those early Antiquity Age turns. None of the leaders in the VR version have any legs, by the way. They do on the flat screen version, but for some reason they're missing here. It's a bit strange that. There's also no leader from the UK, and that is a travesty. Unlike previous games in the series, you'll also select a civilization on top of your leader. This civilization will change in each of the 3 eras. Choices in the Antiquity Age include those ancient civs mentioned earlier: Egypt, Greece, Rome. Here is where most of the unique abilities are, including the unique units. Now that's a really confusing change for me. I guess some people will like the various combinations of leaders and civs, but for me, honestly, I prefer as it was. Essentially, I can choose Benjamin Franklin in his little red jacket and spectacles as a leader for ancient Egypt? Confusing stuff. That's the main difference from previous titles. Most of the other things will feel familiar for fans of the series, such as forming cities and entering diplomacy with your neighbours in the same way. Oh, I mentioned towns earlier, didn't I? Settlers don't form cities now, they form towns, and you have to grow the towns into cities over time. I actually really like this change. Right, before we get into the gameplay, I want to note the audio in Civ 7. The scores in Civ games have always been absolute bangers, and here is no different. I can't show you any for copyright reasons, but if you've played a Civ game before, you know what I mean. Epic orchestral pieces perfectly match the tones of the civilizations you play and encounter, including instruments from those cultures. Unfortunately, it's a huge shame we have to say goodbye to Sean Bean this time round.
Bastard. Bastard.
But we do get Sean Bean's co-star from Game of Thrones, Gwendolyn Christie, who does a fantastic job. Alright, here we go, gameplay. I don't want to talk too much about how the game actually plays and the questionable differences in Civ 7 compared to previous titles. There's a lot to a Civ game, and for that kind of review, I suggest another flat screen review for Civ 7, as it's mostly the complete game here. I want to talk about how do the virtual reality elements play. Do they enhance the game, and how does it perform? Straight off the bat I'll tell you, I had reservations when Civ 7 was announced for Quest. I sunk many hours into the PC version of Civ 6, so I know the complexity of what would need to be achieved to get this right. First up, UI. It's very, very confusing. First is this permanent radial dial stuck to your left hand. The icon in the centre will recommend a step to take on your turn, familiar in all Civ games. You can point and click at any of the buildings or units on the map as you wish, but this radial will recommend a move if a unit is idle or a city isn't currently producing anything. The issue is the contextual buttons surrounding it that have so many icons, which could mean anything. Most units, even very simple ones, have multiple pages of actions on the dial to choose from. If you point with your right hand at any of them and press the A button, you'll be given the text title of what the action is called, but half the time you'll still be wondering what it actually does. I had multiple times where UI elements have rendered in at weird scales or have been incorrectly squished. There's also UI elements littering the map where they don't need to be. They get in the way of the 3D models of your soldiers, animals and buildings on the map. I can see the elephant. I don't need the giant elephant icon in front of it all the time. Is the UI an impossible task? Was the game destined to fail because there's just too much functionality in a Civ game to achieve via a UI in VR? Maybe. Right, issue number 2 is general graphics. I get this game is quite heavy on the CPU, but there's no right looking this graphically bad. Particularly headwear for some reason. If you zoom out, not to really that far, all the unique models are replaced by these ugly blocks, which you really don't want to see, so you have to play fairly zoomed in. Pair that up with the restricted map size compared to the flat screen game due to this circular shaped map table, and it's not that great an experience. You'll find that often units and details like rivers don't render in at all, or they'll be under the sea, and the only way you'll know they're there are those ugly UI icons I said earlier were getting in the way. During combat there's missing arrows or bullets from the animations, and often your unit will be facing the incorrect angle. Health bars for your own units will look empty, but really they're at full health. The list goes on. This is a pretty ugly affair for a fairly simple game graphically. The best looking part is the floating legless leaders. That's all I really have to say about Civ 7 for Quest. I'm sorry to be the bringer of bad news on this one. I'm a fan of the series and I know a lot of you were excited for it. On paper it is really exciting, but unfortunately my suspicions were correct. I don't think VR adds anything to the Civ experience. The flat screen versions are amazing. I recommend picking up Civ 6, the previous instalment, on Steam when it hits a sale, which is regularly. Even the Nintendo Switch version of that previous title is miles better than this, I'm afraid. Now at the point of reviewing this game, it's up for $60 pre-order for this VR version. Well, if you want to try yourself, as always there's a 10% off in the description, best I can do for you. Anyway, thanks for watching Goosey Goggles, my name's Dan, see ya!